It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and this is a best of podcast. You know, I've been in the radio business for 50 years now, and a couple of my stops along the way have been with KCOB AM and FM in Newton, and of course Energy 106.7 in the latter years of my career, 16 years at Energy 106.7, which is tied in with KCOB AM and FM. I worked at KCOB AM and FM in the 1980s specifically, but also in the same building with KCOB AM and FM. And in the 80s when I worked there, my boss was the owner of the radio station, John Carl. And he was owner of KCOB AM and FM for just shy of 50 years. And John is still going strong. He's in his 80s now. And I got to give him props and kudos. He's been doing taxes for the RSVP nonprofit organization tied in with Iowa State University Extension for something like 20 years now. As we get into tax season, I'm sure I'll be seeing John Carl at DMAC in Newton, working away, and he's done my taxes for the last few years also, and I always like reminiscing with John whenever I see him, but this podcast is very interesting because it talks about his years in broadcasting, and one of the things I always found fascinating about John when I worked for him for a couple of years is he was always very interested in doing all kinds of promotions and whatnot, and he taught me a lot about radio because when I worked for him, it was in some of my earlier years in broadcasting. So I think you'll find this podcast fascinating. So sit back and enjoy this podcast with the one and only John Carl, former radio station manager at KCOB AM and FM in Newton. And I'll talk about how the radio business has changed over the years too. And that's coming up in just a moment after we have a word from our wonderful sponsors, including Newton Clinic. Is it time for your annual checkup at Newton Clinic? Hey, check them out. They posted on Facebook. That is that one of the easiest ways to stay on top of your health is just to talk to your provider. Head on in there and find out how your health is doing. Schedule your annual exam and let their team keep you feeling your best all year long. Go to newtonclinic.com, newtonclinic.com, or schedule an appointment at 641-792-2112 at Newton Clinic. And don't forget, their newest provider is Kinsey Heiser, and she does a great job, and I think she'd do a great job for you. She's welcoming new patients at Newton Clinic. Another great sponsor is Ryan's Tire and Auto on 1st Avenue in Newton. And, because of the cold weather we've been having lately, you might get in your car on one of these cold winter days and find that your tires are low. Hey, they provide as a free service, free air. Just stop on in and tell them you need your tires built back up, and they'll take care of that for you. But of course, if you need to stop on in there and get some new tires, or you need an oil change, or your brakes looked at, they'll take care of that too. The folks at Ryan's Tire and Auto say, hey, come on out and find out about our great service. One of their customers, Christy, had this testimonial. She said, thank you, Ryan and crew, for going above and beyond today to get me back on the road. Your service is greatly appreciated. Give Ryan a call for your automotive needs at Ryan's Tire and Auto on 1st Avenue in Newton. Another fine sponsor, Advantage Credit Union.
If you've been fouled by your financial institution, then blow the whistle. This is Coach Miles from Advantage Credit Union with some one-on-one for a financial victory. At ACU, you're treated like you own the team because you actually do. Advantage Credit Union offers great deposit rates. You actually earn interest instead of paying a monthly fee at you-know-where.
Make shot, good!
If you live or work in Jasper County or 18 other central Iowa counties, you are eligible to join. Visit us in downtown Newton or online at acuiowa.org. It's a game winner at ACU.
Member NCUA.
It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and this time around I am excited to talk to a guy who has had so much of an impact on so many broadcasters' lives, on a community, and I got to tell you, it's John Carl. And I was at Rotary, this would probably have been about a month ago, and John has donated his time to preparing taxes for numerous people, for like 20 years, John?
It's been 20 years.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so Rotary donates lunches to the tax preparers for RSVP, and John was sitting next to me. And at Rotary, we introduce people who are visiting Rotarians or visiting folks from the community. And Lonnie Portner is our president this year. And John and I usually talk radio and whatnot whenever he sits next to me. And he had gotten up to leave, and Lonnie mistakenly came to me at the beginning of the program and said, well, don't you have a guest? And I said, well, it was John Carl, but he got up to leave. And I said, but if you know John Carl, give him a pat on the back, because for decades, he supplied this community with news, weather, sports, play-by-play, funeral announcements, and don't you know what you got till it's gone? Yeah. Just like the Joni Mitchell song, Big Yellow Taxi. Yep. So on behalf of the people who came up to me when I was working part-time at Hy-Vee and turned on the radio one morning and thought there was something wrong with their radio because all that had left, had vanished. Thank you, John Carl, for all you brought.
Thank you, Jamie. You've exaggerated only slightly.
Well, somebody said to me, well, if John were here, he'd hide under the table because of embarrassment. But I want to talk about your history in radio because, as I recall, you told me one time that you were, about 2 weeks away from having been in radio when you retired. Is that correct?
Yeah, for 50 years.
For 50 years.
But I didn't quite make it.
You didn't quite. Why didn't you last the other 2 weeks, John?
Good question.
Are you going to answer it? Or?
I had no reason.
Okay.
The time had come. I got started when I was in high school. A friend of mine in Atlantic, Iowa, and myself carved out an hour of time. I think it was 4 to 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. It was called Teen Time.
Okay.
We were juniors in high school. We thought we were terribly funny. I don't know whether anybody listened to us or not, but we fell in love with radio. And I was given the opportunity about a year later to choose between my construction job or working at the radio station. And of course, that was not hard to decide.
Sure.
And so I got started in, like I say, 1957 and retired in 2006. So isn't that about right?
That would be about right. Now, by the way, I wanted to thank you too for hiring me. I'd been in radio for about 10 years when you hired me to do mornings at KCOB. And not just for hiring me, but this interview hopefully will go very well and you will give it your thumbs up, because I learned to interview because I had to, because of a little thing that you had going on called Feature Scope.
Yeah.
And we all exchanged having that chore to do throughout the radio station. We had to do it 2 or 3 times a week. Yep. The news director had to do it. Other people within the radio station had to do it. And it was baptism by fire. And I learned the best way to do an interview is by listening to people, not by talking so much. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk some more, because you got into radio because of that teen show that you did.
Yep.
Did you work weekends and nights? Was that how it began with you? That's how it began with me.
Actually, the radio station in Atlantic is KJAN, an AM only at the time that we got started. They later had an FM station, of course. And I tended to work there through my college years in the summertime, as well as that last year of high school. And then after graduate school, I went back and worked again for another year with them. And they the principals of KJN bought the station in Centerville, Iowa. This would be in the fall of 1970. And they decided to make me manager of that station. Well, I was 23 years old, so I had all the answers at that time in my life.
Or at least you thought you did.
I thought I did. It was only later on in life that I began to question some things that I had considered holy. But nevertheless, that was a good experience. We were there 5 years, and then went to Newton, Iowa, and bought the station KCOG. KCOG was in Centerville, and bought KCOB in Newton. I think I got my dates mixed up. We bought the station in Centerville in 1965, and then the station in Newton was 1970.
So when did you get into sales? Was it in Atlantic?
In Atlantic, and my mentor there, and a great radio guy, his name was Everett Faust, but he was 6'7" and had red hair, so he was Red Faust.
Okay.
And he really took me under his wing, and I was happy to be an announcer, and he said, "You need to start selling."
Why?
Well, that's where the money is.
Okay. So, see, because, and again, I want to talk about you, not about me, but I sold for 6 months for a radio station in Pella that you're familiar with, for a guy who was an attorney. And I would walk into places and they would look at me with disdain saying, "Here comes another peddler." And I got tired of hearing the word no all the time. And I thought, life is too short. My dad taught me that money cannot buy you happiness. Now, my dad, and again, I'm sorry, I'm talking about myself.
And by the way, your dad was a great salesman.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But he taught me that he was never as happy being a realtor and an insurance guy as what he was when he was a teacher. I don't know if you knew, he came to Newton as a speech, debate, and drama teacher.
Yep, sure did.
He made good money as a real estate and insurance. Hey, I never wanted for anything as a kid. I didn't. But he was so happy doing that. And so I decided to take a vow of poverty and stay with the on-air side. And boy, did I have fun. I had a lot of fun. And I could have made a lot more money in sales. But being Jamie Phillips, as an on-air guy, I had a lot of fun. And so I decided to stay with that. You probably did rather well on the sales side, and that's good. But I also remember you as being very talented on the on-air side, John.
I was going to say, one of the things I tended to do in all of those situations was a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. I was not good on the technical end. We always said competent engineers.
Yeah.
But, I could do some accounting, I could do some traffic, I could do commercials, I could do writing, I could do the news director's job, and I enjoyed each of those things. And in fact, small market radio really allowed you to do those number of things, and that was very satisfying to me.
Did you ever have an urge to go to the big markets?
No. I grew up happily in Atlantic, town of 7,000. I thought people there were very kind, and just enjoyed the situation very much, and always enjoyed small market radio.
Mm-hmm. So
small market radio is tough from the standpoint you're trying to be something to everybody, and that's about impossible to do. In large markets, they carve out a niche. We got a talk radio, we got classic hits, we got classical music or country and western, so on and so forth. In small market, you're wearing a lot of hats, and sometimes it doesn't work. Mm-hmm.
So you were in Centerville, and you became the manager. Did you always have an urge to own a radio station?
Absolutely, and we had ownership in Centerville, and that,
so you were part owner in Centerville?
Yes, owned a fourth of it, and my partner. This is a little confusing. My partner was also a Red Faust.
Oh.
Everett Faust's brother, Robert.
Okay.
But they were both known as Red. So anyway, between Bob Faust and I, we owned half the station, and over again we tried to buy the other half, and over again they wouldn't sell it to us. And well, that's part of the problem. It was successful, so they thought, why quit? So I thought, after 5 years, I thought, let's see if I can't go buy something and own it by myself. And I did.
So you sold your part of that radio station then to someone else?
Well, to the Fausts.
To the Fausts.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and they were very good about it. They understood that where I was coming from, and in fact, Everett Faust, Red, recommended me to Dick Brandt in Newton and said, this guy's okay. So that worked out.
So Dick Brandt and his brother, as I understand it, started KCOB. And then Dick Brandt, I think, bought out his brother and owned the whole thing.
Right.
And we talked about this, a tie-in with Dick Brandt and Rush Limbaugh.
Well, they were both from Cape Girardeau.
Cape Girardeau. And a story that I told you was years ago, when I was on the air in Waterloo, I found a phone number for Rush Limbaugh's mom, Millie, and after Dick Brandt passed away, Dick Brandt's wife, Edna, moved back to Cape Girardeau. And apparently, Millie Limbaugh and Edna Brandt were friends. And I had Rush Limbaugh's mom on the air, and during a commercial break, I asked Millie Limbaugh if she knew Edna Brandt, and she said, yes, we played bridge just last week. So small world.
Yeah. Dick had a lot of affection for Cape Girardeau, and Edna did too. Mm-hmm. Dick's dad taught music at Southeast Missouri State in Cape Girardeau. And of course, Dick played saxophone. And was in the band in Newton for years.
Yes, the municipal band, as I recall.
Absolutely.
So did Dick let you buy into KCOB immediately, or okay?
Well, no.
Okay.
So Dick's thought was, I'm happy to sell it to you. Let's get to know each other to make sure that, this is going to work.
It's a good fit.
We got to get along. And I thought he was going to perhaps go back on his word. So I was concerned about that. And I called my dad and laid the story out to him. And my father said to me, he's absolutely right. First thing you got to do is get along and make sure you're both happy. And then you can work out a buy-sell relationship. And so I went back to Dick and I said, well, I think you're absolutely wrong in not selling me the station right now, but my dad says I'm the one that's wrong, so let's go with that. Mm-hmm. And with that, it was about a year, 18 months later, that I bought a third of it, and then another third, and then another third.
Slowly bought into the radio station.
Yeah, I didn't have any money.
Sure.
So Dick was very generous with the terms of the deal, not necessarily the dollar amount. I don't think he was generous with that, but it was generous in how I paid it off. And it worked out very nicely for both of us.
Well, and then eventually you build the house. I think it was called the Simple House.
It was designed in Williamsburg, Virginia. And James Semple lived there at one time. I think, since I've gone back to Williamsburg, it's got a different name now. But I thought it was a charming house and a charming design, and we were going to be locating in a residential area, and that was important for the neighbors to feel good about the structure we were going to build. Mm-hmm. And they were concerned we were going to put up a tower and, do all kinds of things that would make them nervous, and it turned out all we did is build a very nice house, which wasn't a house, it was a business.
You used phone lines.
Yep, we did at the time.
Yeah,
yep.
You did. Now, was KCOB FM on the air before you had the radio station, or?
No, it was owned by, you might have to help me with
the Hamiltons.
The Hamiltons.
And they had
KUWS.
Yes, Keeping Up with Sports.
That's right.
And I think their thought was, since KCOB AM had to sign off at sunset, they would make their money on Newton Cardinal sports, but it did not work out for them, apparently. No. And I think they had the Indianola station, too, at that time.
I think you're right.
And so Dick Brandt bought them out. I remember KCOB FM went on the air in 1969.
Yeah.
Something like that. And because, getting on further on, when I would visit Dale out at the radio station, you had the automation out there for KCOB FM, and I do remember that. So, it was quite a deal. Okay, let's move forward a little bit and talk about some of your big memories. I mean, you were out there for a long time, and some of your great hires that you've had, and you probably know the one that I'm thinking of, but you've had some great people. Another one that I'm thinking of is Joel McRae.
Sure.
You know, I mean, that guy went a long, long way, and we do go way back, not kind of like Dale Hansen that I'm thinking of, but tell me about Joel. Did you think when you first met him and hired him part-time that he would go as far as he did, especially with iHeart?
No, I didn't, but that's okay. Actually, we had a lot of station owners and managers through the years, and I wonder if I can remember them all. John O'Connor, who grew up in Grinnell.
Right. Don Toole was one of them, too.
Don Toole,
Yeah.
Bill Perkis. Actually, Bill Perkis was down in Centerville, so he was a graduate of the Centerville station.
I remember John O'Connor took me to a ball game once out at Woodland Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave Reek.
Sure,
you know,
on a radio station down
Creston.
in Creston. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we had a lot of folks that had some talent and made a name for themselves.
Well, that's a feather in your cap, John.
Well, sometimes it's just luck as to who, you know, is available for a certain job at a certain time, and a luck too that they find something else that works for them that's a better situation than they had at KCOB. So let's not underestimate luck.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I don't know if
speaking of luck.
Yeah.
I got to tell you this story.
Okay.
This is one of my best. So I sit down with Dick Brandt on day one, and Dick Brandt says, I got a call from Everett Faust that says you would be a heck of a manager. The trouble is, I just hired a manager. His name is Mike O'Connor.
Oh.
And he said he's from Grinnell, and he will be starting in 2 weeks. But I will keep your name, and the phone rings. It's Mike O'Connor.
Okay.
Saying, I don't want the job. I'm going to stay at my television post in KWWL in Waterloo. Mm-hmm. And so Dick hung up, and of course I was sitting right there, and I could tell what had happened. And Dick says, I'm more interested in you now than I was. And I said, well, Dick, I'm changing the stakes. I want to buy the station. I don't want to work at the station.
And Mike O'Connor ended up owning that radio station down.
And I think still does. And was mayor of Centerville.
Oh,
Might
he
still
was.
be.
Yeah, well, they changed the call letters down there, I think, on that FM station to KMGO to
That's
Mike O'Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's his initials.
Yeah, he had that, he did sports at KWWL for a long time.
Long time.
And then John O'Connor owned the radio station in Cherokee for quite a while, too. Good people. Yeah. I just wanted to mention, if it had not been for you, I would never have met Dale Hansen.
Well, let's talk about Dale. Dale just was an extraordinarily talented individual and has proven that in his life in Texas. I mean, he's a long ways away from Newton and Grinnell, Iowa, but in Texas he's well known and has been enormously successful and tells great stories about his time at KCOB. He ended up being the voice of the Dallas Cowboys on radio. Mm-hmm. And when he was offered the job by, I think, Tex Schramm, who owned the Cowboys, he said, Dale, I can only pay you $1,000 a game. And Dale said, well, I got to think about that. Let's see, I did Colfax versus Prairie City on the roof of the press box in the rain with Mick Trier holding the umbrella for $10. So, yeah, I guess I'll take the job.
True story.
True story.
Yeah. Well, when you hired Dale from some broadcasting school in Milwaukee.
He was selling freezer planes door to door.
Oh, was he really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was not doing well, and he was going to try this radio thing.
Yep.
You brought him around to different clients of the radio station, and my dad was one of them. And my mom was working for my dad in the real estate and insurance office. Come to find out, both Harrison County kids, right?
Yeah.
My mom came home and told me about Dale being from Logan, my mom from Missouri Valley. As you can see, I wore my radio shirt for you in your honor, John. This is me playing radio at the age of 7 in my bedroom. See those headphones? Those came from Walt Keith. My sister dated Tom Cook, who was Leland Cook's son, worked part-time at the radio station.
Yes, he did.
And I was a radio freak from the very beginning. And you don't know this, but in 7th grade, after I found out about Dale, I would call him every day at KCOB when he was a DJ, and he would never send me away. Now, I don't know whether it was because my dad was a client of the radio station, whether it was good for his ego, or he was just being a nice guy.
Let's go with the latter.
Okay, I guess. But he was very kind to me. Some days on a Saturday or Sunday, he would invite me out to the radio station. I would help him load the automation.
Yeah.
He would help me pick out songs. I could remember I dug out one by the Doors called "Riders on the Storm," and he said, "Too damn many waves. Let's get another song." And I said, "Okay." And he'd help me. He would let me start the turntables. He was very, very kind to me, and I always wanted to be in radio. And he had moved on. I don't know what happened between the two of you, but he had moved on to Knoxville. And back in those days, as you'll recall, in the summertime especially, AM radio stations could stay on longer, sunrise to sunset. And he was in Knoxville, and he was the program director, and they needed a warm body to keep the radio station on the air in the summertime. And he thought of me, and he called me, and I applied for the job, and they needed me. And one thing you didn't know about me, and a lot of people didn't know about me, was that I was petit mal epileptic. Now, there's two types of epilepsy. There's grand mal, where you go into the big seizures, and there's petit mal, where you just kind of daydream and you stare off into space for about 5 seconds. I didn't know this, and my parents didn't tell me this till I was 15 because of insurance reasons, and back then they would put you into special schools, and my parents didn't think I needed that. So my parents, for the first 6 months working at the radio station in Knoxville, John, would drive me to and from the Knoxville radio station just so I could do that.
Yeah.
And this spring, in a couple of months, it'll be 50 years for me in radio.
Yeah.
So, big deal for me. Big deal for me. And I owe a lot of that to Dale. So, thank you, Dale Hansen. I'm sure you're listening to this. And let me tell you about Dale. There is, and Dale, I'm telling you this, he is the perfect combination of his mom and dad, okay? Dale, let's face it, you got a big ego, the size of Texas, all right? And it has carried you far. And you're a hell of a storyteller, you're a hell of a man, and you're a blue man in a red state. And if anybody wants to see some of his great unplugged videos, go to YouTube and check them out. That's his dad's side. That's Merv Hansen. He also has a heart of gold. And that's his mom's side.
Yeah. I didn't never meet them. I didn't have that privilege.
You know, my aunt was on his his mom and dad's bowling team.
Oh, for God's sake.
And his dad had an airplane. And my aunt went flying one time to a bowling tournament. And my aunt was scared as hell because they went through a thunderstorm together. And she was so scared. But they made it and everything went okay. I knocked on their door once just to meet them. My grandparents are buried in Woodbine, if you know where Woodbine is. And so I stopped in Logan one day, and Mr. Hansen was there, and he said, "Oh, you're Edna Thorne's a nephew. Come on in." Now, Mrs. Hansen was not there yet. She was out getting groceries, and she came home later on, and she invited me to supper, and I couldn't stay. I said no, I wouldn't. But she was very kind, and so was Mr. Hansen. And he ran me some videotapes of some of Dale's sportscasts, and they were very, very proud of him.
Yeah.
As well they should be. but both Harrison County kids, and just a lot to be proud of. Great guy. So sorry I get a little choked up when I talk about Dale, because he was very, very kind. So so anyway, back to you, John. Some of your other memories, you had some great promotions. I remember back when I worked for you, we did a national humidity festival. It was kind of crazy. Channel 5 came out and covered it. You and I were outside on First Avenue sitting at a table, cars going by, but Jeff Wilson was inside playing all these sound effects of a parade that was an imaginary parade.
Absolutely.
We had a pile of ice on the front lawn of the radio station, taking guesses as to how long it would take for that to melt. We had guesses as to the relative humidity at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And this all happened because you would come in and do the weather every morning. And you said one morning, you know, it's high humidity in August. We should celebrate our humidity, for heaven's sakes. And we
got
did.
Something going for us.
Yeah. Let's make a big deal out of it. Do you remember any of the other promotions that you did on the radio station? Because you came up with some doozies.
One that I didn't think of, Tom Mason.
T.C. Mason.
Yeah, T.C. Mason had a program in the morning, and he had an idea of send me a pen.
Okay.
And he got, advertising pens from all over, and of course,
Did he?
with Newton having both Newton Manufacturing and the Vernon Company.
Oh, you bet.
He got swamped with pens.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But it's also been 20 years since I've been gone, so
yeah.
Some of those things fade into the past, I'm afraid to say.
Are there ever any days that you miss radio, John?
Oh, I enjoy radio still. It certainly has morphed with the coming of the internet, but everything else changes too. And that's just one of the things you have to understand in life. That change is everywhere all the time. And sometimes it's gradual, sometimes it's sudden. But yeah, radio is not today what it was. But radio, you got to remember, if you go back into the 20s and 30s, it was something then even different than the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s. So
yeah.
Change is in the air.
Speaking of which, what do you think of the future of radio? You hear about the big companies, and it doesn't sound real positive. Well, yet there's still local ownership out there and small market radio.
Yeah, it's a tough call. And here's another thought, just like the podcast that's on the air right now. There are different forms of a kind of thing called radio. But again, to say it, this podcast being one of them. But there are also people that have radio stations on the internet. And if you go on the internet and see how many radio stations there are there, like Paradise Radio and a bunch of others, and a lot of them have a different kind of format, meaning they just live off donations. They don't sell advertising.
Right.
So, people are trying to adapt, and yet car radio is still important, and you can't do that with internet. So that's still a lifeline. Do we have too many radio stations? I don't know. You can argue that one way or the other. Do we have too much concentrated ownership? Well, maybe. But maybe you could say that about farms too, that there's too much concentrated ownership. I don't know. We'll let the economists figure that one out. But to answer your question, what's the future of radio? I don't know. You could ask me about the future of a bunch of other things too, and I still don't know. But we do know that, like the coming of Walmart, retail changed. Yeah. And with the coming of Amazon, retail changed again.
Sure.
So, radio will continue to change. But the concept of providing music or information to an audience, that isn't going to change. It's just how it's delivered.
Well, as I said at the outset, John, thanks for all you've done for broadcasting in Iowa. Thanks for all you've done for your community service. People don't know the hours and hours and hours of community service time that you have donated through your radio station and radio stations that you have owned.
Yeah. And I think you're being a little generous. I enjoyed it. It was a good career for me. I'm part thespian, part businessman, part writer, part this, part that.
Part carnival barker.
Yeah, really. and so it was throwing Brer Rabbit into the briar patch. It was okay, and I stayed with it a long, long time. And when the time came, it was somebody else's turn. And so now it's your turn.
Well, thank you. Well, I like podcasting. I don't know that it's any better than radio. I have advertisers on my podcast, and I have to run commercials just like radio too. And, you know, they pay the bill for this.
You bet.
And I appreciate them. It's a community service that we do. And like I said, I couldn't do this if I hadn't learned it through Feature Scope.
Yeah.
And so thank you again for all that. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it, John. And one thing I appreciate about you is that you're keeping busy and you're going out and you're still helping the community through all your service with the tax preparation. And folks, I have money coming back from the government. John helped me out again. I said to him a few years ago when he started preparing taxes for me, John, thanks for the money. You know how radio pays.
Just so we get the record straight, the computer does the heavy lifting. I just put the numbers in the boxes.
Okay. My interview guest on this edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout has been the legendary John Carl. Other sponsors include Lynette Baker, Halo Branded Solutions, Westside Java Coffee Bar. Head on in to Westside Java Coffee Bar or use their drive-up in the alley. Maid-Rite Sandwich Shop in Newton. They not only have great Maid-Rites, but they serve breakfast 7 days a week. Until next time, Grout is out. See ya!